Welcome back to the Motor Index, folks. Today we are discussing all things Watkins Glen and then all things Richmond as we head into the final two races of the regular season here in the NASCAR Cup Series. Been away for a couple days, just been really busy with some stuff past couple days, so that's why I haven't gotten a Watkins Glen recap out. But we're going to discuss everything Watkins Glen. Not much to talk about, honestly. It was kind of a boring race, but let's get right on into it. So, SVG wins again. Shocker, I know. Wins another road course. Look, I don't want to be one of those guys who hates on SVG because of the wins and stuff. But at the end of the day, it is a little boring. I gotta say, but that should be a testament to SVG, not a detriment towards the sport itself. I mean, it's historic and it's incredible what he's doing. Basically toying with the competition until it matters, and then just completely exploding and destroying everybody. So it's wild. It really is wild to watch some of these road course races and appreciate how much better he is compared to all these other guys who have more experience in this car doing this than he does himself. So it's pretty crazy. But now, obviously a lot of the argument has now been, should we put less road course on the schedule, whatever. And maybe, I would say maybe, a few, but I saw somebody say two. It should be more than two. It should absolutely be more than two. But should it be seven? Probably not. I'd say five. I think five is a good sweet spot. Do four in the regular season and then one in the playoffs. I think that would be great. But as far as the thing that kills me is just the fact that SVG can be second in points after this race, but look at how he runs on the ovals. That's the part that I understand. That's where I sympathize with the critics of SVG. And it's not even critics of SVG, it's critics of how SVG's impact of winning in his way is affecting the sport. I completely agree. I think this is just completely exposing the system for what it is, and I think they're going to fix it. I am pretty confident that they're going to change something. I hope it's enough, but we'll see. But SVG wins again. I think it's the most wins by a rookie ever in a Cup Series rookie season, if I'm remembering that correctly. So super impressive there. But yeah, like I said, this race, I mean, not disregarding SVG, it could have been Chase Elliott winning. This race was actually pretty freaking boring. let's be honest. Like somebody was mentioning, if you go on to I think it was Eric Eastep was talking about, if you go on to the NASCAR site and you look at the passing things on okay, since the restart, how many passes have they made? And it was just +1 or 0 even, every time. Nobody was passing each other until the third stage, and and by the time the third stage came around, it was just complete. It was an SVG beatdown, and I do think the good way to look at this race would be, analyzing it as though SVG was not in the race, and if it hadn't, it would have come down to a battle between Christopher Bell and Chris Buescher. And by the way, great result for Christopher Bell. Coming off, kind of bad summer, if we want to be honest. But the one thing that has stayed consistent for Christopher Bell is the road course speed. He's the only guy in the Cup Series to win a road course race this year, not named SVG. So, pretty remarkable stuff. But yeah, at the end of the day, I think the car obviously needs a ton of work. That's not news to anybody. But we'll just have to see what they're willing to kind of throw out there and try. We will see. But as this race kind of played out, we had Ryan Blaney at the front of the field controlling this race because SVG, well, that's the part I want to know is, could SVG have just passed him and made this thing a complete and total beatdown? He might have been able to. I don't know. But Ryan Blaney able to hold off SVG for the first stage until green flag pit stops as everybody was flipping the stage. And then that's when Chris Buescher stayed out for the stage points. So those are big points for Buescher because he currently sits +34 to the cut line. So that is huge, huge points for Chris Buescher. But at the end of the day, I think I think Buescher would have liked to win this race, and I think he would have won the race, given the fact he went on. I think he was the one passing, or wait, no, I think Christopher Bell passed him on the final lap, so he would have technically lost in the way he won had this had there been no SVG. But yeah, so Chris Buescher gets a stage 1 win, great stuff for him. Ryan Blaney gets a stage 2 win. I think I don't remember exactly how it played out if SVG also stayed out, but I think Blaney probably knew if he flipped that stage, he was not going to be winning that race regardless of what he did. So probably good to get out of there with some stage, or with the playoff point from the stage win. Kind of like I think he did that. It was either at Chicago or was it Mexico City? One of those road courses recently, Blaney did the same thing. And it's been a common theme for Blaney because he's obviously not one of the better. I mean, he did win the pole, but he's not technically one of these guys you think of when you go to the road courses as one of these guys who you got to watch on these road courses. So good for him. That'll come in handy later down the line. The playoff points will. But yeah, so, and then as we get into stage 3, tire wear actually picked up a lot in stage 3, which was interesting to see. But by then it's like SVG's building 10, 11 second gaps to the field. Not really much to do there. So, yeah, it is what it is. But it was nice to see that tire wear pick up a little bit and be able to see some people passing because nobody was able to pass all day. So, but yeah, at the end, SVG gets it done, smashes everybody in the teeth. What's new at the road courses? So, before we are done talking about the Glen, though, I want to just mention the Connor Zilic thing on Saturday because, I mean, impressive victory, but oh my God, that fall was crazy, and like the way the camera angle caught it, dude, it was like straight out of a horror movie. I was terrified. That was scary, but in all seriousness, just so glad he's okay because that is the best young talent we've got in our sport, and it would have been a damn shame to see his career be affected by that in just such a stupid incident, like in such a silly incident. Like nobody, I've always thought that something like that could happen, but then to see it happen and in the way it happened, it was like, what? Like, it was crazy. But no, I that's all I really want to say on that. Just completely happy Connor's okay because that was terrifying. But let's get into Richmond because I think we do got some interesting stuff to talk about with Richmond. Obviously, 2 races to go till the till the playoffs. So, cut line battle is at a fever pitch right now, and obviously we know how this race last year went here at Richmond. Yes, say what you want about how Austin Dillon wrecked 2 guys coming to the finish line. Say what you want about that. Austin Dillon was in line to win that race before the overtime was necessary. So crazy things had transpired prior to the madness of the end. So I do think we have potential for chaos in this race, which is weird to say at a short track in the current moment here in 2025 when we have all these issues with the short tracks. But yeah, I think this is a very comparable racetrack to Iowa. Not exactly, but it's close. And I think it's going to provide a lot of similar, strategy and racing that you would see there. But I think it is going to be a little bit better. How much better? We're going to have to see. There is a reality in this race that, Denny Hamlin just goes on and wins. Like, he just completely dominates and destroys everybody. That is on the table, but I've just got a feeling it's not going to be like that. I'm going to get into who I think is going to win in my contenders, but and I do think it's going to be a lot of good drivers making their way to the front and win it and contending for the win. But I also could see, we saw it last year, a random driver just popping up and winning. And I think a lot of the guys around the cut line are the kind of guys I'm thinking about here. Like, and we're going to get into them, but, yeah, I think a lot of people might sleep on this race coming into it. And I think a lot of people might leave this race pleasantly surprised because I think there is going to be drama, and I think there's going to be a lot of it. This race is going to be about being good on and off pit road, great restarts, because by the time the field gets very spread out, I don't think there's not going to be a ton of tire wear. I don't suspect, and that's going to probably lead to a lot of, I don't want to say boring green flag runs, but it's going to be a little stretched out probably. I think there will be a lot of movement within the field, but I do think the contenders are going to probably end up getting stretched out if we get some long green flag runs. But I'm optimistic that, kind of similar to Iowa, because that Iowa race got a lot of hate, even though it was actually pretty good. I think obviously the lap traffic is going to be a big factor, like we saw in Iowa, and that's part of why I like the Iowa race, was because the leaders couldn't actually get super far out and had to make their way through the lap traffic, and those front few cars were constantly on the leader's bumpers. So, and say what you want, that's hard to race with, and I find that entertaining. Some fans don't, even though they may not be passing each other lap after lap, but I find that aspect of having to hold guys off constantly, lap after lap, and then you're running it through the lap traffic and trying to make your way through that while keeping these guys behind you. I think that's hard to do, and I find that entertaining to watch. But I get a lot of fans may not like that as much, but I think you're going to get aspects of that here at Richmond. I don't know if it'll be a direct one-to-one comparison, but I do think this is going to be a pretty entertaining race because of I think the racing is going to be better than your average short track currently, basically like Iowa was, with heightened stakes. So, and I think just the fact this race is at night is going to help a lot of people's perception of it, just because of how cool the cars look at night and stuff. So, yeah. With that being said, I think we got to get into our winner and contender picks, though. Just going over the cut line before we get into this, Tyler Reddick is the first car in on points at plus 117. Bowman is the next at plus 60, and then Chris Buescher is at plus 34. Then his teammate on the flip side, on the other side of the cut line, Ryan Preece is also at minus 34. So a lot of drama between the RFK camp this week. I mean, they all work great together, and they're all nice to each other and great guys. But this has all three of the RFK cars need to win this week, and I mean, two of them have won here before. Obviously, Keselowski did it with Penske and not RFK Racing, but Buescher did it, what was it, 2 years ago, I think, won here. So, yeah, I think all three of the RFK cars are, I think, going to be in contention. Let's put that out there. Denny Hamlin, pretty obvious, won here, I believe, multiple times, and just, best driver in the series this year, and this just screams Denny Hamlin's going to be in contention. Win? He could win. Do I think he's going to win? I'm not picking him to win. Alex Bowman, another guy who's won here before, who is right on that cut line at plus 60. If he has a bad day or wrecks out, he heads to Daytona and some pretty thin ice. So, and hell, he could have a good day. He could have a perfectly fine day on Saturday night. If one of these randoms just win, that could also completely throw his Daytona race into the what am I even trying to say? Into chaos. There are a lot of ways Alex Bowman's day could go perfectly fine on paper and completely hurt him. So that's something to watch too. Is all these guys on the cut line, if there's a new winner, it affects them directly. But Alex Bowman, one of the hottest drivers in Cup right now, even though he doesn't have that win yet so far this year, he's finishing inside the top 10 like every week. So certainly look for him. Joey Logano, kind of another one of these guys who was all right to start the year. He got his win, but, pretty uncompetitive for the past month or two. He's got a few top 10 sprinkled in there, but for the most part, it's been a pretty bad stretch for Joey Logano. Great racetrack for him at Richmond. Could certainly win. Obviously, was wrecked from the win last year by Austin Dillon. So we will see. Mentioning Austin Dillon, RCR, I think Austin Dillon and Kyle Busch could both go out and win this race. Well, obviously both kind of need to go do that if they want to be in the playoffs. So we will see. I mean, and the scary thing is the speed, especially for Austin Dillon, has been slowly creeping up the past few weeks. You start to see those people start to see people talking about how we're a year removed from the disaster that was the end of last year's Richmond race. And you start to hear people mentioning Austin Dillon, and then you start to see his name ticking higher and higher on the ticker, and you're like, "Uh-oh, are they doing this again?" They might be doing this again. So if Austin Dillon and Kyle Busch just show up to Richmond and like both qualify like inside the top 5, I would not be shocked at all. Like I think this might happen. I think this is probably going to happen. Maybe not the top 5, but I think both cars are going to start in the top 10, and I think both cars are going to be in contention. Would be huge for both guys. It would imagine if it would be the craziest story ever if Austin Dillon came back to Richmond and won straight up. That would be awesome. But I don't think that's going to happen, but it might. And then Kyle Busch, would be huge to break the streak. I think Daytona is a great chance for him to do that as well, but I think the speed is going to really be there for RCR this week. Let's get on my winner. And I kind of already mentioned RFK Racing. I'm going Brad Keselowski, baby. I'm going Brad. I think Brad gets it done. He's been on the doorstep. Should have won Iowa. Had the fastest car at Iowa. It's going to probably be the exact same car this weekend. I don't know exactly, because the qualifying is going to be a big thing. If he can't qualify up front, it's going to be a challenge. But, I mean, certainly there's ways to get to the front. And if you're from the back, like, that is not an impossible feat. But, I mean, you're Brad Keselowski. I mean, in the year 2025, I mean, yeah, the speed's been great as of late, but we all know how hard it is to pass in these at these short tracks. Passing in general in the Cup Series has been very difficult recently, no matter what kind of track we're at. So if you're Brad Keselowski, you really need to qualify pretty high up, I think. But I don't know. It's my gut. My gut's telling me Brad Keselowski's going to win this race. I don't know what it is. I could just be completely off my rocker, but I'm going Brad Keselowski, and that's that. So with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching. Please like and subscribe, and stay tuned heading into Richmond this weekend. Reminder, I think the Xfinity race, if they're racing... Oh, wait, no, Xfinity's off this week. The Cup Series race is on Saturday night, not Sunday. So keep that in mind and enjoy the race this weekend. Thank you guys, and God bless.